I recently purchased myself two little games, Subnautica and Below Zero. So I installed them both and started playing. I went into Subnautica completely blind, so spoilers ahead for the game. Subnautica and Below Zero have very different feels, and I've spent the past few months binging retrospectives and reviews and playthroughs of this whole game, and I've gotten into it a lot. So I figured I would cover what makes Subnautica so terrifying. Don't mind Below Zero, that game's completely irrelevant in this situation. But since this isn't a whole game overview, I'm not going to cover the story of the game, just what makes it scary. So let's start. Grab some veggie straws, yes, specifically veggie straws, and grab a warm blanket as we delve into the world of 4546B. Enjoy this exceptionally animated sequence of the Subnautica opening by yours truly. You're sitting here chilling, maybe eating some kind of spacey snack, minding your own business while traveling to an unnamed planet called 4546B. You start to descend into the atmosphere. You strap into your seat as 149 others secure their seatbelts. You near the land. The siren, a building, the shaking, the noise, the fear, the panic, the sprinting, the life pods, the adrenaline. You depart from the ship. You're falling. The aurora's failing. Survival. Survive. Don't think of anything else. Ignore the broken. Ignore the fall. Ignore the heat. Heat. Heat! Your pot is on fire. Oh look, there's a nifty little gadget. That's very gameplay convenient. Hesitant. You open the ceiling hatch, and with a fizz of compressed air, positioning to stand on top of the escape pod, your camera pans to the aurora as a droning echo riser releases and the ocean swallows the horizon in front of you, an endless blanket covering anything that may lie below it. You, Riley Robinson, are completely alone. Funnily enough, only 80% of people who bought this game actually make it here. Just look at this achievement. You're probably wondering why I left this silence go for so long. If you're part of that 80%, you jump into the ocean. And it's a nice coral reef. This is going to be one nice and relaxing game, swimming with the fishes and growing plants and just having a good time. Subnautica at this very moment has set up an image in the player's mind that is so important. The game would not be nearly as popular as it was without this one scene. This moment establishes the player is safe. This is what makes your first Leviathan encounter so horrifying. Everything you've known, everywhere you've been, has been safe. But is it really? Swimming out of your comfort zone, you'll come across the reefback. Rather, it's sound. The loud, deep, vibrating call of a reefback will immediately set you off guard and send a shiver down your spine. These creatures are not hostile in the slightest, but calm, large, lovable creatures. As they fade into view, they are floating gardens, mysterious creatures above a large drop-off of floor. Though you have encountered small creatures like stalkers that prove some harm, they're avoidable, and if you're not a newcomer to games, won't scare you. Night approaches, and it gets a lot harder to see. This game has no fear in making the water completely pitch black, and this will come into play later. Oxygen. You can't breathe. Wait, you can't breathe? You're 100 meters under the ocean's pressure, and you're almost out of oxygen. Welcome to Subnautica's gameplay loop. To explore most shipwrecks and caves, you'll have to have a sea moth for oxygen down there. But even with that, getting lost is very easy. Scampering to find your way out of a cave or a shipwreck at low oxygen is one of the most sweat-inducing things you'll ever encounter. But that is by your own fault. You're the one that got lost. You're the one that went to the shipwreck. This still isn't scary, just anxiety-inducing. You rush to the surface and about to black out, you make it. Without your PDA's warnings, you wouldn't have made it out alive. Welcome to your only sort of friend, the PDA. An AI that informs you about the world around you. But it doesn't serve as much of a companion in terms of friendship. It will make some relatable quips every so often as a helpful tip or a funny joke. But other than that, a cold, female, metallic voice is all you have in this expansive ocean. Nobody else is here to help you. You are completely alone. There is nobody with you, not even yourself. Riley is a silent protagonist, so you don't see what he is thinking, or desiring, or fearing. You are the protagonist. You are the one desiring things, exploring and choosing where to go. The game does not guide you anywhere. This is the awful dread of freedom. Getting more experience, you build up the confidence to swim further into the ocean and upgrade your oxygen. There are only two barriers for going deeper into the sea. oxygen being the inferior. There are no invisible walls in this game, but depth is what keeps you from exploring. You can explore as much as you want going along the X and Z axis, but your Y axis is very difficult to traverse and is much more expansive. Upgrading your oxygen tank can help you, but you'll still run out, causing vehicles to be portable oxygen, but also be limited by crush depth. But this will come into more play later. But the main thing keeping you from going deeper is your own fear. Okay, maybe that's a bit pretentious, but like, you get the point. After exploring, you start to think about the Aurora, the ship. You've been using this giant obtrusion as a waypoint and a marker for where you've been going, but never investigated it. So why not? In the new cool sea moth you travel over, the water starts to get murkier and turns a brown color slowly. Nighttime is approaching. Occasionally, you'll get out of the vehicle to scan some important fragments. A roar in the distance from a creature that you can't yet see. There's something in the water. A very distant shadow is visible. It's massive. Curious and intrigued, you want to keep exploring. You want to see this fish and explore the ship. Though several sirens are warning you in your head, you keep going. The ecosystem has been drained of life and color, and this dreary and bleak environment has no signs of nearby life. But from afar, the threatening call of this mysterious fish is relentlessly drawing closer. A silhouette in the distance recedes back into the gloomy water. Nighttime and darkness has fully enveloped your vision, so all you can see is what is right in front of you. A tail. A body. A Reaper Leviathan. You are all alone in the water, and there's nothing to help you. This moment is the highlight and turning point of the entire game. You run for your life, swim for your life, and are afraid of loss for progress, death, but most importantly, the fact that you might get jump scared, or have it swim right in front of you. The game is playing with your physical emotions. You aren't scared, but terrified. Terror is a completely separate thing from horror. Horror is seeing the monster, encountering the jump scare, watching the scary actions unfold. But terror? It's all in the mind. See how I end my sentences by going deeper and ending them like this? It makes it sound pretty cool, right? Terror is the goosebumps, the tingling that something is drawing near around the corner watching you. Terror is very rarely encountering the Leviathans, and instead of being a constant danger and constant attacks, they are very rare. Because if you got the attacks constantly, it would numb your brain to the jump scare, and you would very easily suspect when a Leviathan was going to come out and attack. Terror is waiting for the scare. Terror is seeing the clothes monster at night. I like to call the clothes monster Queen Chui Chui. Returning to the shallow waters, there's no danger. But you, not the character, you are paranoid that something will be there. Anywhere. Security is gone, and this game has just tricked you into a false sense of safety. You are completely alone. But at the same time, you have never been. After some moderately difficult, not really, kind of, maybe easy thinking, I have found that there are 3 key elements to making a Leviathan scary. Appearance, environment, and situation. Appearance is how scary a monster looks, how it sounds, and its program mechanics. Environment is the biome and location where it spawns. And situation is the high stakes of losing progress, how difficult it is to avoid, and how much damage it can do. And only one Leviathan in the game succeeds at every single one. The Reaper Leviathan. The Reaper Leviathan is probably the scariest thing in the game. Though I know this is technically subjective, the Reaper is the only Leviathan with a common jump scare screen, and its white body and red color scheme represent a warning. Spider-like with 4 eyes and mandibles that can crush you like a lime. Are limes easy to crush? I have no idea. It's a supposed 55 meters long and has the scariest, most realistic distant roar that hints something is always watching. Environment. Environment is the most essential piece to making anything in the game scary. Any environment the Reaper lives in is perfect for this. The crash site is the most optimal for terror. It's murky, hard to see, and atmospheric. The dunes, which houses 8 Reapers, is the most open ocean you could possibly run into. And you could probably encounter 2 of these things at the same time. Or more. Probably when you'll hear the line, detecting multiple Leviathan-class life forms in the region. Are you certain whatever you're doing is worth it?
Audio Jungle.
And it is just a vast biome that takes up an unhinged amount of the map. Also, I am sick, so that's why I sound like this in this recording. Now shut up because you don't care probably. In the mountains biome. This is a really personal fear of mine because one time a reaper clipped through the wall here and said it's reapering time and totally reapered all over the place. I don't have footage of this incident. It's so scary now because whenever I want to go to the Sea Emperor, I have to go next to the mountain and there's like 6 reaper spawn locations there, so it's scary. The Reaper is usually in open areas that are easy to get to. It's not usually that far away and you'll usually be Why did I get a British accent for a second? What the heck? So you'll usually be... Why? It's not that far away, so you'll usually be... It's not usually that far away, so usually... It's not that far away. Usually you'll be carrying not that high of level stuff or just common materials. So there's not much of a risk factor, but it is very difficult to avoid. And if you see it, it will probably sense you soon, so you have to be stealthy and quick and get oxygen and escape. Get out of there as fast as you can! And what's worse is if you do get into an encounter with it, it will deal 80% damage to your sea moth, and it is very persistent. It will stay on you for a long time, and until you get away, which you better be quick, this Leviathan will not stop. This Leviathan is the obvious highlight of the game and is the moment the player realizes how hard and terrifying their experience is about to get. This game is a horror game in disguise, I swear. Also, if at night, it makes the encounter 10 times more dreadful. Dang, I really wish I could see a Reaper Leviathan right now. Oh! Heading towards the Jelly Shroom Caves to explore the Degassi base, you find not a Leviathan, but a stunning swimming slitherer. Dang, say that 7 times fast. These creatures hide inside the jelly shrooms, and when you go near one, just look at them. They're glowy, they look yummy. Jump scare! But since there are so many, you get pretty numb to them pretty fast, but it's a shock at first. Mainly a health concern. Like white bread. Emergency. Readings from the Aurora show severe instability in the primary drive core. The central dark matter reactor will reach a supercritical state in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2... That's my explosion noises. Heading towards the Aurora to fix the radiation, you'll find a big vibe check of thalassophobia and megalophobia. This game taps into some of my worst phobias, but at this point, I wouldn't even classify them as phobias because a phobia is a niche fear. But these most definitely apply to most humans out there. This is really the only time when you're forced to confront a Reaper Leviathan, most likely crossing paths with one in the distance while searching for an entry through the Aurora's wreckage. This one moment of the game is just so gradually dreadful. You have to be looking all around you. Usually when you have your first encounter with a Reaper, you're entering from one side and you have a clear exit point. But when doing this, you are enveloped in Reapers surrounding you at all angles. Keep an eye on your back until you find the way into the wreckage. But until then, screw your fears, throw them out the window. Just focus on the Aurora. Once you fix the Aurora, you definitely want to start exploring the second island, but you are completely alone in front of the abyss below your very feet. The Ghost Leviathan is an interesting Leviathan to say the least. Appearance, environment, and situation. The Ghost Leviathan is not scary to me. Since it is a deep water Leviathan, it needs to look like it. The Ghost completely looks like a real life creature from the deep depths of the sea. Like, look at these other guys. They look like the Ghost Leviathan, just small. It's very luminescent, and instead of roaring, an echoing screech and droning hollow whisper comes from its sideways mouth. It curls up and twitches around in jerky, fast, predatory movements, but does not have a jump scare screen, meaning you can slide and flow right past him. This removes so much terror from this encounter because it doesn't make a loud sound, it doesn't force you into its grasp, it doesn't keep you from fleeing, and it's less aggressive than a Reaper, and a bit slower, but once it does get aggravated, it does not let go, unless you crawl into some little space that your average 4-year-old has a hard time fitting into. Though I do think this is the coolest looking Leviathan, it isn't scary, but it's other things that add to its horror. This brute is found in deeper waters, twice in open water, and once in the Lost River. Diving deeper under the floating island is a large feeder that is spotted in the distance. The open water is scary, but since they're so glowy, this specimen is easily spottable from the distance and can easily be avoided. Wait, hold up. Before we continue with the Ghost Leviathan, we got another creative critter up here in the Blood Kelp Zone in the Grand Reef. Two contrasting areas. The Grand Reef is a bubbly, happy space and is a biome under the island. But in this whole area, there's one key place that will send shivers down your timbers. One of the Degassi bases is here, and oh god, this segment scares me. This is the first player encounter with a massive cave that is deep underwater. So if your vehicle dies of power because of whatever little fish is down here, you'll have no way of getting oxygen and will die drowning deep underwater. So this is why the crab squid is perfect here. This guy's amazing and bioluminescent, almost as much as the Ghost Leviathan. This species can not only attack you and spook your organs out of you while exploring the Degassi base with limited oxygen, but also, if you're almost out of oxygen getting back to your sea moth to regain air before leaving for further exploration, the crab squid will say, "Noki doki," and EMP your vehicle and power it off until shortly regaining power after, giving you not enough time for air or for a more powerful beast to sneak up on you and play a little game of, oh, your little Sally just exploded and your lungs are gonna fill with water until you can't breathe. Crab squids also sound amazing. It's one of my favorite soundtracks within the whole game. Okay, back to the Ghost now. The Lost River only has a few exits, and it's a very claustrophobic atmosphere. This area of the game is very creative and unique, with the river underwater and the foggy green haze, with all the rotten walls and skulls of the past Leviathans. A very spooky area, with the gargantuan skeleton too. Some ghosts live here, and if you plan on taking a Cyclops in here, you will be attacked multiple alarming times, unless you are extremely cautious. But in your prawn suit, though difficult to avoid, it's easy to escape through these spaces with the grappler arm in the smaller caves. And here also lies a Ghost Leviathan egg, which is very cool. I want it. Can I have it, please? You may be coming back from an excruciatingly long trip from the late game area, or exploring the nickel, or other resources the river has to offer. But this is quite far from home, and depending on where your base is, the stakes are extremely high, so you don't want to get eaten in this position if you're heading back. You want to keep a low profile from the Ghost or just Spider-Man. Where did I read that from? You want to keep a low profile from the Ghost or just Spider-Man, Batman, swing with the grapple arm and build up massive speeds and break the sound barrier. But where the Ghost Leviathan is the biggest, oldest, and most effective is when you are entering the ecological dead zone. Adding report to data ping. First time players on a standard run of the game will always encounter the dead zone and likely never return. If on the seafloor, you experience a drop off, or if you're on top of the water, you can't see the bottom for the life of you. There's nothing here. You are completely alone. You will be attacked by a Ghost Leviathan fading in from the distance, and if not evaded and not too far down from the drop, you'll be able to escape. But if stuck, you better have a whole Mexican family of 12 on your back, man. I swear to God, bro. These are where the ghosts are not just juvenile, but full adults, and are in complete darkness. They belong here. They are the deep sea bioluminescent creatures. Anything in the dark escalates stakes a lot, and when the ghosts are used to their full advantage here, oh shoot, we already passed the environment section in this situation. Well, it's kind of works for both. Also, screw you. You have no power in where I put these categories or how I write these scripts. What you gonna do about it? Exactly! This last portion of the game takes a turn on how it's presented gameplay and tone-wise. The game becomes less of a test of your fear and more of a test of skill, losing most of, if not all, scariness other than the anxiety of being 1,500 meters underwater. Taking your final breaths above the expansive ocean for a long time, not Riley Robinson, but you go to explore the deepest depths this game can offer. Underneath the Lost River lies the inactive lava zone, a murky and musty warm ecosystem, starting with a long drawn-out tunnel leading to the open expanse. While making your way into the open cave, a thunderous roar in the distance strikes your ears. Curious to see this massive creature and curious of what it looks like, because, let's be real, the Leviathans are the main selling point of the game. You make your way forward and leave the tunnel into the inactive lava zone. The critters here have adapted to survive in these conditions for so long. Some animals can spit fire, and some have rock-hard calluses to protect heat. and the freaking critters rhymingly named lava larva leech your power, adding stress of getting burnt by getting out of your car. And there it is again, the Jurassic roar, much closer, almost ear-splitting. In the words of Sean McLaughlin, the roar sounds as it is all around you. Then you notice a shadow protruding far into the distance. It starts to come closer and closer, slowly, and unleashes a barrage of... Is that a fire-breathing dragon underwater? Yeah, this thing is pretty goofy looking. It's a squid dinosaur dragon hybrid. As the final and biggest Leviathan, I understand why it looks this way. More threatened boss than a scary Five Nights at Freddy monster. This thing doesn't really pose a threat unless, for some reason, you brought a Cyclops down here. Don't bring a Cyclops down here, by the way. I didn't even know this thing could grab your prawn suit because it's so hard for it to attack you and angle its mouth and body because of its gargantuan size, and the fireballs are easy to avoid, and he barely aggroes and doesn't stick to it. He also clips through walls. This is the scariest thing about him. That sounds like a fire alarm. Environment. This environment is a bit hard to judge because it's open water and a cave, so it's a mix of the claustrophobic Lost River and an open water space. Caves are already worse for scares and anticipation of a Leviathan because you will always see the Leviathan in the distance and it's just a very small space, so you'll easily get numb to the jump scares. There's no hype and anxiety of being ambushed, especially with a Leviathan of this size and speed, or rather slowness. But the other fauna in this area provide a decent threat, like the warpers and lava larvae. The warpers can warp you out of your vehicle and may separate you far enough to get yourself burned pretty bad, on top of the minor sea dragon threat. The stakes are high here. As I said, it abandoned the terror and instead has gone for a challenge of skill rather than your own perseverance and mindset. You will have valuable resources on you and will be challenged a lot with tedious back and forth errands. So you'll be inclined at first to pray not to die. But the more you realize the layout and how good the prawn suit is, you'll forget there's a threat and ignore the unrelentless brute surrounding you. So yeah, more stakes, but at the same time, more familiarity. Oh yeah, there's also the active lava zone. But this is just a tighter space and slightly more elevated threat levels. And inside this building, there's the Sea Emperor, the actual biggest Leviathan. Funny thing is, in the trailers, this was going to be an antagonist, but in the game, appearance, environment, situation. Cute. This wraps up how This wraps up Subnautica and how it utilizes terror and horror with a silent protagonist. It puts you in their shoes and uses your own mindset and fears as the main limits of the game. Oh yeah, wait, the sea treaders exist! They're so cute and cool and I love their sounds and I want a pet sea treader. Oxygen is a dreadful clock ticking that you have to push back, and if you lose your source of it, there's no escape. This beautiful game made by probably beautiful people. Okay, now that I'm looking up what these guys look like, Nevermind is a testament to how underused the ocean and depths of water is used in video games and media. And when it is, it's just a shark trope. Look, a shark. Now look, a bigger shark. Now look, a shark tornado. So yeah, that is Subnautica, but surprisingly enough, this game had a sequel. So does it hold up to the standards of the first game? No, but that's a topic for another time. I'll see you once my next video comes out, which will probably be a little bit, but whatever. Bye!